Okay, Terry, let's start with this. So this idea that, he's the victim and that he opened fire at the house because he lost the gun during the altercation, he felt his life was in danger. It might explain why he shot the brother, but then just opening fire at the house and he just happens to hit Dixon. What do you make about that?
Well, I think he didn't just happen to hit Dixon. He happened to hit Dixon multiple times, and then he happened to hit Ronald, the brother, even more multiple times. So I think self-defense is an argument. I think it's the only way that the defense can state in this case. But, I mean, self-defense is one thing, cold-blooded murder is another, and it was overkill, if you ask me.
Yeah, we're learning a lot about the defendant in this case. And joining us, new guest here on the network. We're so happy to have her in studio. Attorney Asha Smith is with us. Now, Asha, I want to ask you a question. Representing a guy like Markeith Loyd, he has been very outspoken throughout this entire case. I think in the last 2.5 years, he's spoken out in every hearing. Yesterday, he went on a tirade about media coverage and saying there's fake news. What is it like representing a client like that?
It's challenging. You want to be the voice to speak for your client, but you can't forget that your client also has a right to speak for himself or herself. It's just kind of balancing things out.
Does it make a defense difficult in a way, trying to make your argument seem credible? Like, as he's presenting, is he worried that Markeith Loyd is just going to say something in open court?
He might be worried about that, but at the same time, he's got to be focused on doing his job and presenting the best case for defense that he can.
All right, Terry, what did you make of the first witness of this trial? I guess the first witnesses are going to be about, the shooting itself and the first eyewitnesses to what they saw and they heard. Did she ultimately help the state's case, or did she ultimately maybe give some ground for the defense? What do you think?
It was a short, sweet testimony. I think it was pretty neutral. I do think that the defense did a good job at saying her initial concern was her son, which makes sense. So we'll see. I mean, she didn't add a whole lot. She was there. She called 911. She is a witness.
Now, I got to ask you, Asha, there's going to be so much evidence in this case. And one of the things that we know that we didn't even hear in the state's opening, which I found surprising, is this text message that apparently or allegedly Loyd sends to Dixon after the shooting at 9:24, where he basically says, I don't know if you're going to make it, but I hope that you don't. And then he says, I told you don't play with me, and you got a gun, and I just wanted to talk. Does that seem like something that could really, really hurt his case, or maybe help his case? What do you think?
It's too early to tell. That text message in and of itself doesn't prove any guilt or innocence. It just proves that what he thought at the time that he sent the text message. After those events transpired, they could still go to his self-defense claim that he was acting in self-defense. So
okay,
it's going to depend on what comes out.
It's a good lawyer answer. We're going to go back. We have a new witness on the stand. Let's go live. All right, so we're probably going to see this body cam footage. If things get a bit too graphic, we are going to pull out. We don't want to, we're not sure what this body cam footage is going to look like, but it will probably show a chaotic scene nonetheless. Now, Terry, one of the trigger words here is self-defense, right? I mean, that's a that's a phrase that comes into my mind because whenever we cover these trials and we hear self-defense, I always think, is the defendant going to take the stand? In a majority of the self-defense cases we've covered, the defendant takes the stand. Now, we talked about earlier, Markeith Loyd is an interesting personality. Do you think he's going to opt to take the stand in this trial?
I do think he will opt to take the stand because he has been so vocal. And also, if I am recalling correctly, I do think that his attorney said to the jury, you will hear from Markeith, meaning that he's going to go on the stand to explain why he had self-defense in his mind when he went to that house and shot his, girlfriend.
Asha, what do you think about that?
I think when you start a trial and your client wants to testify, you go along with it, and then the trial happens and evidence comes out and you hear the testimony, and your client could change his or her mind. So I still say it's possible he might change his mind depending on what comes out of the testimony. He has been outspoken all throughout the proceedings and for the last couple of years, but being on trial has a way of changing things for people. A defendant can start a trial with one temperament and midway through the trial change.
It's a different kind of perspective, is it not? And I think that's a big issue here. Now, Terry, it took a while to get a jury ultimately seated here, and when they were seated, what we were able to know is that there are 12 women, 4 men. We are not sure which of the 4 are alternates. The makeup are 7 white, 5 African American, 4 Hispanic. Is there anything you can glean from the makeup of the jury in this trial?
You know, I think if I had been on the prosecution, I would want more women, and it sounds like they have women, and I think that women might be more sympathetic to Sade's position. But it's hard to say. You know, I don't know the background of the jurors, but the racial component, you know, maybe you might want more people of the same race as the defendant. So it'll be interesting to see how it pans out at the end of the day.
What about the idea of, if you're a defense attorney and you're presenting a self-defense case, what kind of jurors do you want? Do you want people with backgrounds that maybe, I mean, I don't know, not at law enforcement, but I mean, you tell me, I wouldn't know.
That's such a loaded question because it's really going to depend on the facts of the case. You
Right.
can't have like one specific profile of a juror that you want for a self-defense case. It entirely depends on what the facts of the case are.
Right.
Not to be repetitive, but in this case where it's alleged that he shot, the mother of his unborn child and her brother, you might want some women on there. You also might want some men that, have similar situations where they have a girlfriend or ex-wife or something that has kids. You don't know.
Right. No, you never know. And we're not sure which way this is going to go. This is just day 1, and it took a while to seat a jury, and now they are going to be handling this case, and it's not an easy case to ultimately decide. So we're going to take a quick break while they set up to actually play this body cam footage, and when we come back, we'll be live. Stay tuned.